everything out there is making people terrified to pray, to have a personal connection to God, to trust that connection, to trust their own hearts. Almost everything out there is giving people endless rules and regulations, and only say the affirmation, 3 times, or somebody else wrote, can I say more than one change me prayer at a time? I don't want to dissipate the power. What if I want to do 10 change me prayers? Is that bad? To me, this all started in churches and synagogues and all these places, and I say this with 6 rabbis in my family, so I'm not putting down religion per se, but most conventional religion is filled with rules and regulations. That includes Hinduism, that includes all kinds of things. And then the New Age world picked up this same idea that there's a right way, there's a wrong way. You stand on your yoga mat this way, and if you don't, terrible things might happen. And all of this, the truest purpose to me, and this is really what, I consider Rumi and Hafez and the Sufi poets some of my greatest teachers. And they all said, in their own way, throw out your damn rule book and dive into God. It's not about a rule book. It's not about an authority out there saying do this or do that, or if you don't do this, you'll go to hell, or if you don't do this, you won't be enlightened, or God will punish you. We've all been so contaminated, literally, with that. And I say that with including myself, that this has been one of the greatest ways I've used Change Me prayers in my own life, growing up with 6 rabbis in my family, to start to say, free me from any fear of doing it wrong, and just take me over with your love. Take me over. Because this work is not about, it's not even work, it's like a love affair, which I guess, maybe if you're like a triple Capricorn, you consider all your love affairs work, but it's really like a deepening love affair with the divine, and it's all about endless invitation, welcoming, invoking, allowing, receiving, accepting. It's not about following rules. Or it's actually, there's an enormous healing inherent in this that's very tied to surrender, because we're so taught to be terrified of surrender, in part because we're taught to be terrified of doing something wrong, or that if we let go of the wheel, something horrible might happen, or that we'll make a mistake, or that we won't do it perfectly, or all that. So I would be thrilled if one of the biggest things you came away with from these 4 weeks was a sense that there's no right way to do this, except that you are now going to allow your own personal relationship to the divine to begin to emerge. And that anybody actually who has the audacity to tell you there's a right way or a wrong way clearly doesn't have their own deep connection, because anybody who does, Hafez really wrote about this in his poetry. He would say every so often somebody would come and they would say, Hafez, are you crazy? You're walking around like a lunatic, muttering to God. How can you behave like this? You should be reading from the proper scriptures. And, he would just laugh. He would say, but I'm in love. There's no rule book here. So I don't think this is stuff that just happened in ancient Persia. It's available to anybody as soon as you start to make the invitation. And there's enormous, enormous freedom in it, because you start to realize the answers are on the inside. And if I'm saying anything over these weeks that resonates with you, then please use it. And if I'm not, then please ignore it, because I'm certainly not putting myself out as any ultimate authority. I'm just telling you what I do and what's worked for me and what's worked with some people that I've shared it with over the years. And that this is very radical in a way, because it flies in the face of all the teachings that say the answers are out there. So I love working with the questions tremendously, but not to say, oh, I'm going to give you the perfect answer, but to say, let this show you ways that you can begin to go deeper in yourself, to make God your own. Because that's all these classes are for, I would say, is to make God your own, that God has been ripped away from everybody. The identity of God living inside of you as love that wants to take care of you and guide you and adore you and unfold your life in the highest way, that has been ripped from almost everyone, unless you're very unusual and you've been really focused on the inside in that immersion. Many, many teachings make it on the outside and make people fearful to allow it. So I would say, if you can use this class to release the fear of doing it wrong, release the attachment to perfection, and there's a great change me prayer for that, which is, change me into someone who is free from fearing mistakes, especially these spiritual mistakes, free from fearing my own imperfection. Allow me to play with this. There's a very playful way to approach the divine, where you're really inviting. You're just inviting. And I understand this isn't for everybody. There are people that they really like the rules and the regulations, and they crave that, and I honor that. But that's not what I'm doing here. What I'm saying is, it's almost the opposite of what this culture teaches. When they say that line in the Bible somewhere where they say, if you take one step towards God, God takes 3 steps towards you, that is the damn truth. But it's that step towards where you go, okay, God, I don't even know the right way to pray to you. I don't even know, but I'm inviting you now. And begin to give me the words and begin to show me the steps.